So just to explain, we're going to have a total of 8 stories, 4 stories and then discussion, and then the second 4 stories and then discussion. So we'll hear first the stories from Leroy from Liberia, from Begum in Turkey, from Chirunim in Nigeria, and then Zineng, who is from China. You'll then provide feedback, and then we'll do stories. And I'm sorry, I should have numbered these things. The numbers disappear when you transfer this to Zoom. And then in the second half, we will hear from Farzana from Pakistan, Eric from Burundi, Chia from Cameroon, and Mohammed from Afghanistan. And then we'll have discussion again based on their stories. So stories, discussion, stories, discussion. The second thing I wanted to share with you are a few things about just general explanations. So let me just and about kind of what we're looking for in particular in terms of your feedback. So let me just put this in the Zoom chat. So here is the first thing. This is more background for those of you who might be new to this. And I'm trying to scan through here to see if there is anybody that might be new. I've got somebody who's identified as a Zoom user, so I don't know who you are. But the point is that this is today and next Sunday, the 22nd, are the finale of our the second year of our family diplomacy training. And so we are doing this in 2 parts. So today, 8 stories, and then next Sunday, 7 stories. You've probably seen the poster with all 15 of our storytellers. But this is part of our family diplomacy initiative. And I think, as you guys are all aware, the Family Diplomacy Initiative is intended to train family diplomats, a growing core family diplomats across the world, to provide them with the skills and the knowledge they need to be able to advocate effectively for families on the issues that affect them. So that's point number 1. Let me post points number 2 and 3 and see if this, in fact, I can fit it all, because there's a restriction on how much you can post. There's 1, so that's 2, and number 3, I think, is here. Yes. Okay. So so the second point I just posted the Zoom chat is just what I mentioned. We're hearing stories today from Africa and from Asia. Next week, we'll also hear a story from Brazil. And some of the stories, just so you are aware, will be told live, and then some of them will be recorded. So you'll see both live and recorded stories today. We allowed our FDs to record their stories because we are concerned about internet connection. In some cases, just safer for them to share it video recorded. So point number 3 here is important. We do, in fact, want from all of you here, interns, volunteers, former family diplomats, et cetera, and so forth. We want feedback from all of you on these stories. And so I give you some kind of instructions for that feedback. One is that there are kind of some examples of ways that you can structure your feedback, like saying, I liked ... whatever you liked about it. And then here's one thing that you could improve. Another way that you can structure is just to focus on what you liked and that you found effective or moving or emotionally moving. And the third is if there are things that the story reminds you of from your own experience, or from your knowledge of either the country or of your own country or your own experience. Connecting with that is also very important. So sharing that stuff as well. You can, with regards to this, you can share both on the Zoom chat. In fact, I'm hoping that you'll share on the Zoom chat as they're telling their stories, but also live when we have the actual discussion after the first four and after the second four. One last thing, which is things that you might pay attention to. So I'm going to put this in the Zoom chat as well. And that is what's clear and not clear from the story. Not so much. We're less concerned so much about accents as we are about because you'll notice that the ones that are recorded will have subtitles. So you'll be able to read if you have any issues with the accents. Accents are something people can't necessarily improve. And so rather focus on the actual structure of the storytelling and whether there are some things that are clear, unclear to you, and kind of sharing that with our FDs, because they need to know if they're going to continue to improve their stories, what was clear and what was not clear. Another thing is their use of their bodies, so their hands, their voices, and any props, so like photos or other objects or the actual setting, and you can offer them constructive feedback on that. And then lastly, whether the story moved you, because ultimately storytelling is about moving people. And so if they emotionally moved you or you connected with the story in some way, let them know that, because that's important. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if we have any questions before we actually start the stories. No questions. Leroy.
Yeah, I want to know if during the time, let me say, after the presentation, the inquiry that will be coming, the person whose story was played will be in any position to answer the questions.
Yes. If you don't have time, we may not have full time to get to all the comments and the questions. That's why it's important to post the Zoom chat. But yes, we should. I think what we'll probably do is offer you guys the opportunity to respond, and you may have to remind me of this at the end of the discussion period. Fatima, who's joining us from Pakistan.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Actually, I wanted to tell you that I have joined a new job, as I earlier mentioned. So I was in the hill station somewhere. I was unable to even make a video, but somehow I've made it. I know that is not my best performance. I think my Maham has shared with you, because I WhatsApped that video to her, as it was difficult to upload, but it is not my best performance. So what should I do? I'm not happy with it. Should I record it again? Like, I'm still at that place.
No, I don't think because we already have a transcription of your story. You're set for now. But I think this is, her question bears for all of you. You should consider this it's the finale for this training, but we want you to continue to improve your storytelling. And so really take these meetings today and next Sunday seriously as places where, and we are going to record, everything is recorded. So this video is recorded and your Zoom chat comments will be recorded. We will be sharing that with you so that you can, in fact, benefit from the feedback that people give you to help improve your storytelling. You do not have to be perfect storytellers. The most important thing is to improve. That's all we're looking for. We do not evaluate you, any of you, based on how excellent your storytelling is. What we evaluate in terms of the actual awards is whether you have improved. And that's why we had you tell a story before the training. And then after the training now is when you're actually telling this post story. And then we're going to be able to compare your pre-story and your post story to be able to see whether you've improved and how much you've improved. So, so I think that keep that in mind as we go. Fatima, does that
Okay,
answer your
then
question?
I got it. Thank you so much for your response. And I'm looking forward to join more trainings with you because that is not my best performance, I know, and I'm a trainer. I train people. So I think this training is very important for me. If there is any opportunity of training, please let me know. Maybe I'll miss the message and whatever, but email me and keep in mind that I'm always willing for any kind of training. Thank
Great.
you.
Good. Okay, so we need to get started with the stories. I'm pleased to see, I think I noticed that Eric, who's joining us from Burundi, where is Eric? I can't see him on my screen anymore. He might have had he might have lost connection, but I think he's joining with like a large group of his friends that he's teaching English to, or I think so. It's really good to see that. Yeah, I think he's back. So Eric, it's good to see you and your compatriots there. I don't know if you can hear us in Burundi, but I'm glad you're joining us as a group. Make sure to keep yourselves muted if you're not actually commenting live, or if you're not commenting live, or if you're not actually storytelling, because we want to make sure that it's everybody can focus on the stories. Okay, let us actually start the storytelling. So I'm going to share my screen and show you, hold on a second, show you the first story. And bear with me because sometimes the video, it may take a little while for the video to load, but I think we should be okay. So let me share my screen. And again, we're going to start with 4 stories. No comments between the stories. I'm going to play 4 stories, and then we'll discuss. So please write your comments and feedback as we go, or just take notes and then reserve it for the discussion. This is Leroy from Liberia.
Single model business. Should children live in a single model family being stigmatized, depressed, or oppressed because of their lack of sufficient funds to meet societal needs? Well, that has been an answer question over the years that needs to be discussed. We have 5 4 immediate family members. I was born in 2000 in Darwin Town, and my siblings were both born in 2004 and 2005. But our parents separated a few years later because of unfaithfulness in marriage. And our mom decided to take us to Port of Downtown for schooling in 2011. At that time, she was still a student, was struggling to survive. But because of the love she has for us, she could not just allow us to grow up being educated. Can you just imagine being in a situation like that? During that same year, at first said the only money left in our house was about $250 Liberian. My mom decided to take me to a chemist with the money. Even though it wasn't enough. But the chemist decided to help us to see how devastating our condition was. A few months later, I recovered my sickness and started speaking. But all we could see around us was discrimination, blame, stigmatization, and depression from friends and classmates, all because we could not meet every necessary requirements. Some of our friends and classmates may at times find themselves in our shoes, but they will never be treated like us, all because they were children of the region. So I was thinking this was just normal routine for my society in my country for single mothers family who not afford to meet even necessary requirements. So I began to accept my fate and live in a range of what my mom could accrue. But as time went by, some family members even joined our stigmatizers, which actually shocked me and made me to believe that being a child of separated parents is actually a crime. It's actually a crime. So I was thinking of quitting school and maybe focus on business. But as time goes by, I realized that I was wrong. So I began to neglect everything that was playing in my mind. I decided to accept my condition. I decided to be proud of what I can do and what my family can afford. I decided to live in a way that no one ever mattered to me. And with that, I have been able to get some of my sympathizers to believe that bullying and making others feel inferior is not just the best way to live. I have been able to take charge of my emotion, even though I was dying emotionally, because these things were happening. I've been able to send a very strong message to many single mothers family out there through my internet presentation on Facebook, on Instagram, and other social media pages, making them to believe that they can become whatever they wish to if they have self-confidence and know what others are saying around them. Let us stop throwing offensive words at those in such condition, because it has the propensity to cause emotional damage, which may eventually lead to conflicts in our society. Let us provide support both in words and deeds to those in such condition and make them to have self-confidence. With that, I believe we will have a better society and a better world and a conducive world and a better place for living. Let us contribute to their growth and development.
Okay. I am going to stop sharing because the next one is live. I believe Begum is going to be from Turkey, is going to be performing live. Just to clarify, Leroy was telling a story about his family and about his mother, who has raised him and his siblings alone, and the challenges that they faced and the stigma that they faced as a single mother with kids with few means. So that's the context for that story. Begum, who's joining us from Turkey and will be speaking her story live next, is talking about the importance of family and education. Begum.
Thank you. It is not very easy for a small child to know the virtues of education and how education will play a key role in the following stages of life. So parenting plays a key role in making the children internalize the importance of education and how they can study to achieve their goals in educational life. And this is a story of my own and my mother. It gives details about my childhood and how I tried to get over the blockages and problems that were evident in the early years of my schooling. I live in Turkey, and in 1990s I was newly and I started primary school. And in these early years of schooling, not only the educational quality was bad, but also the physical conditions of the schools were really poor. The heating systems were not existing in modern terms, and so there were stalls in every class, and also the classes were very crowded. And so it was almost impossible for a single teacher to concentrate on the class and to give fruitful lectures because of these highly crowded classes. And my mom has been a person who is a person who has always been aware of the importance of education, and following my school years very closely, she enrolled me in a private course, which is like 1 hour away from my house. But it was not very easy at that time to go to attend to such a private course, because in terms of um, financial dimensions, it was not very cheap, and also in terms of the location, it was not very easy to go to the course location. So despite all the challenges, I tried to do my best, but I think could not achieve uh, this without the support of my mother, because as I said earlier, in these very early ages, the kids cannot understand the virtue of education. So without the support and closely mentoring of my mother, maybe I could not be able to get these courses. And thanks to these courses, I improved my maths and science skills. And thanks to this improvement, I got the chance to go to a very good secondary school, which we call Anatolian high schools in Turkey. And in that school, I went to the preparatory class, and I improved my English. Actually, it is being one of the reasons which because of my proficiency in English. And in Turkey, if you don't have such kind of good education, it will be almost impossible for you to get the chance to attend a school in Istanbul, a university in Istanbul, because the public universities in Istanbul are really limited in terms of numbers. And if you don't get good scores, high scores in the university entrance exam, which is a strict centralized exam, it's impossible to study in Istanbul-based universities. And thanks to all of these efforts, and I achieved, I think, most of my goals. And so I think good parenting, and this is very important for the education of kids and also for the other stages of life. So this is my story.
Great, Begum. Thank you. The next of the four stories is Chirunim, who is going to be talking with us about his father, who went blind, and the challenges he overcame to become a professor, a distinguished professor. Let me share my screen. This story is video recorded.
My father is blind. My father was born after Nigeria gained independence from Britain. He was a happy, ambitious child. He attended state school or Bourbon. His favorite subjects were English, maths, and logic. He wanted to be an attorney. In 1967, after Nigeria's first military coup brought an end to Nigeria's first republic, it was also the end of many dreams. As villages were ravaged, children were separated from their parents, and dreams were separated from their dreamers. My father woke up on a bright Sunday morning with reddish eyes. It was itchy. He couldn't fathom what it was. It was a small blip that kept him out of school for a week as he was taken to the hospital for medical treatment. Little did he know that this small blip would become a catastrophe. A week out of school turned into a month, and a month turned into years. He was booked for an eye surgery, and after this surgery, his sight got worse instead of getting better. Later, he withdrew from school to stay at home with no hope of returning to the classroom. and on academic mornings, when his siblings and friendly neighbors took their baths and wore their school uniforms in preparation for school, he would sit in front of their house, and when they departed, they would call out to him, "Udo, Yejire school." He was devastated. His elder brother got him a small radio that would signal a tint of hope. It was by listening to BBC and Radio Nigeria that he developed his vocabulary. Soon he could speak better English than those who were taught in the classroom. His elder brother came back one fateful day and told him that he had discovered a school for the blind, where he would learn to read and write in Braille. He didn't know what Braille school was, but he was sure that if there were blind people excelling in that school, he would go there too and excel. His confidence was terrifying. It amused those who heard of it. How could a blind man go to school? Please tell us another funny joke, he gestured. My father packed his bags and went to Braille school. He was enrolled to learn Braille for 2 years, but by the 6th month, he had mastered Braille and wanted to return to normal school. "We can't let you go. No one learns Braille in 6 months, the Braille school director complained. But they had no choice than to let him go, because he was so good that he became a Braille instructor for his colleagues in the hostel. So in 1987, my father wrote national exams and got admitted to study religious studies in the University College of Education, Port Harcourt. And this was the beginning of another ordeal, as he shared the same classroom with abled persons. During one of the difficult class sessions one day, the coursemate gestured that, "I know I won't do well in this course, but even if I don't do well, I'll do better than hope," referring to my father. But each semester after the session results were out, my father came out with straight A's. And by the 300 level, he had gone from an underdog to a serious first-class contender. But being brilliant did not change the fact that he was blind, and this posed serious challenges. For example, he needed a full-time assistant to travel with him from the village to the college, to help him carry his luggage, which contained a bunch of plantain, to make a pot of porridge, to hold his hand and walk him from the hostel to the classroom, and from the classroom to the library, and from the library to the canteen, to have his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because he couldn't keep his dream alive on empty stomach. After studying for 4 years, my father graduated with a distinction. And on his graduation day, the governor of Rivers State offered him a permanent job as a classroom teacher. And after teaching for 2 years, he decided to return to school to do his master's in religious studies. While he was doing this master's, his first master's, he enrolled to do a second master's in education to improve his chances of getting a good job. And while he was doing this second master's, he enrolled for a PhD. Today, Dr. Obedebla is now the symbol of education in Obogon town, from being mocked for not going to school. Today, he holds 4 degrees. He has a family of 4 children. He is a member of several international and local associations. He has written over 67 articles published in international and local journals, and is the author of Urban Religion, among many other books. The story of my father teaches that there's ability in disability, as long as you stay strong, persevere, and never give up.
Okay. The last of the 4 stories, so that was Chirunim from Nigeria, talking about his father and how his father overcame disability. We are now going to hear from Mo, and I believe Mohammed, who is joining us from Cyprus, but is from Afghanistan, and is going to be talking about his refugee experience moving from Afghanistan to Iran. Mo, are you presenting? I'm assuming you're presenting live, correct?
Hello? Yes, it's true.
Okay, excellent.
Right.
You can start.
It was August 2021 when everyone was living a normal life in Afghanistan. So I was. Soon after, everything had begun to change. Since not everyone had passport, I chose an illegal way to get out of Afghanistan together with my partner. The only way was Iran, where millions of Afghans live and work in the hope of returning and having a secure Afghanistan. During the past decade, Afghans lost their loved ones. Although this way has taken thousands of Afghan lives, it is still the way. We started our trip and we got to the border. We spoke to people, smugglers. There we have seen people who had been shot and crippled. We decided to come home back, and I had to take this way alone. I left my life with worries in Afghanistan and my family in Iran. I got back to the border and waited with the other people at the border. We were not asleep nor awake. It was 2 at night that we were shown the 2.5-meter high wall. Everyone was trying to cross the line and reach the satellites by the other smugglers on the other side. Some were surrounded by the border soldiers and some got the lights and some were caught by the robbers. We crossed the danger after hours of running, walking. We were taken to a ruined area from where we were moved by cars in group of 10, 11, and 12. Those cars, which were only for 4 and for 5 people. It took us a week. On the way, I noticed hundreds of other people. We were in the jungle and in the mountains. Days were hot, nights were cold. We didn't know where they were taking us. Everything was in their hands. During that time, we were beaten and insulted by the drivers and those smugglers. There, I found a dark world with a big business which was exploiting Afghan people. And I thought how poor and
This is in case so the good thing is in case we do have a video record of his story in case. Go ahead, Mo. I think you're back.
We crossed many cities and the police stations in the mountains and from far distances to avoid being caught by the police. We got to the Yas city. We were led into a big hole in an open area like a desert among the mountains, far from the main road. Unexpectedly, a car was there. A few minutes later, it was gone. Later on, police cars appeared and we all ran up to the middle mountain and the police surrounded us and started shooting and firing freely into the sky and shouting at us to stop and come to them. We didn't do it. They came up to the mountain and most of us stopped running and a smaller number of us stayed hidden. They took us to the custody where I've seen hundreds of Afghans there. From there, they took us back near the border to deport us, where I've seen thousands of Afghans there, which was really shocking for me and broke my heart. Shortly after I was deported with a terrible experience, I got on with a lot of pain and thinking about my future, life, and family. I put an end to that way. I've been thinking of other ways that might help me and family to be safe. Although leaving my family was difficult, I had to. I thought of the current situation, the fear of the time. I thought of my whole 28 years that I have spent there and lasted with nothing. I decided to migrate from another way and I had to make sacrifice. So I left my family in the hope of having a good future and life. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mohammed. So we are going to take this is the first half of the story, so we're going to take a pause and actually discuss as planned. I am just going to put things back in gallery view for my purposes here. So for those of you who are not in fact on screen in video, it would be great to see you. So Ali, Maxime, I think is actually Eric. and others, Zineng, Bell, Joshua. Would be great to see you guys actually visually as we have this discussion. So as we go about getting your feedback, I would much appreciate it if you would raise your hand, just as Maham just did. Raise your hand electronically, and we'll go in order as you provide feedback on whichever stories you choose. Maham, you took your hand down, so I'm assuming that that means you don't have a question, or yes?
I just wanted to take the smiling picture of us really quickly.
Yes,
before we
yes, we customarily, as I'm sure you guys are, most of you are aware, we typically take photos of everybody smiling for our records. So if you don't mind, if you could turn on your cameras and smile for the camera on 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. And one more time on 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. Fantastic, guys. Thanks, Maham, for reminding us. So raise your hands electronically, digitally, if you would like to comment, and we will go in the order of those who've raised their hands. Gustavo, who again is in the United States, an immigrant from Costa Rica, and was one of our FD trainees last year who won an award for his storytelling. Gustavo.
Thank you, Paul. It is always so exciting and so inspiring to hear all of you guys' stories. Seriously, I would love to talk about all of you, but I'm going to talk about Tiranim and Leroy, because I have seen you for a while, and I remember your stories, and I remember sharing spaces with you guys, so I can see how much you have changed. And I would like to say that you guys are doing so well, like the way that you're using your voice, the way that you're using your body. I think that I can definitely see an improvement. You guys should be like proud of yourselves. One of the things that I want to recognize from cheering, especially, it's about the use of props. It is always great to see things, showing us things, let us see your life through your own eyes. So, for example, using your cell phone was a great way to show, like, for example, the picture of your dad, because we understand that everything is digital now, so we usually don't have actual, like, physical pictures. So I think using your phone was great. I would have loved to see you holding your phone a little bit more. Like, I don't think it will be a problem if you have hold your phone while you were talking about your dad, and then when you move to someone else or to a different part of the story, just put it down. But definitely hold it a little bit longer. It would have been great. Holding the actual, like the plantains, it was great, because you were talking about how difficult it was to carry those around, and then you show them, and you were like, yeah, that is super complicated, right? Like, walking around with that must have been like very difficult. So it really puts you in the shoes of the person that you're talking about. So I think that was great. Leroy, I remember that at some point you used to have, I understand that you have to change, like, the commodity and the silence and everything to make your story like a little more understandable. But I remember that even in the chaos, you used to be like surrounded by your family. You used to be outside. It used to be a little bit complicated, but it give you like a different, like, it used to give us a little different view of your story. So I was missing a little bit of that. I understand that, things change, and maybe like now you have like a space that is more like in control. You're more in control of, then you will want to use it. But I would tell you, and maybe this is for all you, like, guys, don't be afraid to show a little bit of the chaos, if that's a way to put it, like, happening around you guys. And it was great. Thank you so much. Your parents' histories were so inspiring. I always love to hear those. Thank you.
Fantastic. Gustavo, I'm really glad you're with us to provide you your feedback. It's really good feedback. So I also want to recognize in the Zoom chat, Anya has been providing a lot of feedback to many of you. And I want to encourage all of you to do the same. Provide feedback in the Zoom chat. This includes our other interns. This includes those of you who are actual FDs performing and so on. Please give each other feedback. It's really important for our FDs to hear from each other, not just from our interns or previous FDs. So by all means, provide feedback in the Zoom chat. Any others that would like to speak, offer comments? Joshua. Joshua is joining us from Uganda.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'll start with Agi Otto. My father is blind. I loved the catch of how of just catch of the story of your story. It caught our attention, and we're using the props to show that surely your dad is blind. With the specs, I could just read the lines so clearly. I loved the chronological flow of your story. It was so good, it was captivating, and the use of your vocal variety. There is an instance where you said, we can't let you go. No one learns Brielle in just 6 months. It was just an amplification of your voice. It was a good point to drive there. The story home. Plus the use of other props, the book. However, I just think you just have to improve the way you end. I thought the story was still moving, and then eventually I saw you had disappeared. So I just think you may have to challenge yourself in the way you conclude your story. But all in all, it was a very good story. And just to throw a few things to our first speaker, Leroy, if I've pronounced the name so well.
Leroy.
It was also a very good. Well, Leroy. It was a very good story with action, and because we've gotten to know how that you were born in the 2000s, how your parents separated because of unfaithfulness. So all that means that we were following your story. You kept us on our toes to follow your story. All those are signs that these are really good story. And still the same thing, how you ended your story, it really, maybe I'll also just say that you just have to just polish a little bit on how to end the story so that when you finish, we are still yearning for more, to listen more of yours from you. I'll end with the GUM. The GUM. All in all, it was a good story, but I just feel that you don't have to introduce. I don't know whether I caught it in a wrong angle, but as if I had you were trying to introduce the story. So I just feel that you just have to tell a story. It's the same way how you were concluding. You said it's just.
Oh, I think Joshua's.
And you're telling us that you're ending. So I just think that you just begin and end the story. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Great, Joshua. Nice. I'm glad that you're being very specific about certain parts. I particularly appreciate that it looks like you took notes, Joshua, And you noted at certain points when, for instance, Chirunim actually did something effective in changing this voice, right? When you noted that, I think that was really important. That he actually enacted the voice of other people who were like incredulous that this guy, this blind man, was able to do what he was able to do. Tell us another joke. I thought that was, I thought you were right to point that out. Maggie, who is one of our interns joining us from the United States.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed Leroy's use of hand gestures. I think the hand gestures were incredibly effective in telling the story, and it really made me sort of feel the emotions throughout the story, especially when Leroy was talking about the stigma behind single motherhood and his family's journey with that. I think the use of gestures really helped to show passion for what he believed in, as well as really match the tone, the passionate tone of voice that was used. And so I think hand gestures are a really effective part of the storytelling.
Yeah. Hand gestures and props, right? Photos. One of the things that was effective both for Chirunim's story, and I have to mention Gustavo as well. Gustavo at some point kind of in his story put up a photo, and then he had a map behind him to explain where he came from and where he was in this immigrant story. So that was very effective as well. Nusrat has her hand up. She's joining. She's one of our FDs and from Bangladesh.
Yeah, in shortly, I just want to say all the stories are very powerful and I really enjoyed it. However, I think Leroy's story, and I think it's the perfect one because I found he just followed the arc of the story. I mean, when we trained and that moment, it's like the hook and then context and then lesson, also the resolution, what we can learn and what's the important things and also the challenges. So I think it's the perfect one. I really liked it.
And which story were you referring to?
Yeah. What was the question?
Which story were you referring to?
Yeah, I told about the Leroy story, the story of Leroy. Yeah, I found it followed all the all part of the story arc, including context, hook, and a lesson, resolution, challenges. So it's amazing, I would say.
Yeah, I think Leroy, to follow up on what and I'm going to mute you, Nusrat, because of that interference whenever somebody else speaks. But one thing to note, so Leroy, in your case, one of the things where I think you could improve on details is and so in a number of your cases, there are ways in which you can make your story more precise, is when you talked about the requirements, the necessary requirements for school. And it seems like you did not have certain things that other, wealthier kids had because you were dependent on a single mom who didn't have the money to provide everything. So instead of saying something like the necessary requirements, you could have said books and pencils and notebooks and so on. So that would have made it much clearer as to what you were referring to. But I think one of the things that I found striking, and this, I by the way, is also true for you, Nusrat, as FDs who have been with us last year and this year, is that your storytelling is getting better. Your storytelling is getting more structured, Leroy, and you're developing clearly kind of your voice and your passion on this kind of issue of how single mothers and their children are treated. And I think it's just, you have the makings of a leader on this issue, and it's really powerful and important. So yeah, just it makes me happy and kind of almost even tearful to think about it. So Leroy, congrats on that stuff. We're going to switch to the next 4 stories. And I apologize, I got the order wrong. So Zineng is going to go next. And Zineng, I believe you are performing live, so hopefully you can turn on your camera, and you can start your story whenever you'd like. I'm just going to preface by saying, so Zineng is from China, and his story is about the pressure, parental pressure that many children in China face to achieve. So Zineng, when you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. So can you hear me?
Yes. Do you want to turn on your camera?
I'm not ready. I'm so sorry because I just woke up. So sorry for that.
Okay.
Okay. So can we start?
Yes.
Oh, sure. When mentioning Chinese families, what is the first thought that pops up in your mind? Conservative, strict, patriarchal. In my story, my family may feel slightly different from the public stereotype of Chinese families. I'm Zinen Yuan. In the realm of Chinese tradition, I should have inherited my father's family name, yet I carry my mother's. These seemingly minor details set me apart from my peers, whose given names spelled their father's legacy. But this isn't merely about names. It reflects the intricate hierarchy within my family. You see, my mother holds the highest position in our household, not only because of her substantial income, but also due to her independent spirit, which renders her uninterested in relying on my father. Even though China has superficially propagated gender equality for years, deep-rooted history and traditions have left a patriarchal remnant. Consequently, my biological father cheated, perhaps assuming my mother was as docile as the stereotypical Chinese woman, attempting to mask his irresponsibility and infidelity. In some ways, his assumption was accurate, as society once expected women to be submissive and unassertive towards their husbands. Failure to conform often gave husbands perceived the right to disregard other shining qualities in their spouses. Nonetheless, my mother refused to succumb to this age-old, woman-centric moral dilemma. She made the bold choice to divorce my biological father despite the pressures from my grandparents and the societal judgments. She projected an image of strength and resilience to the world, but behind the closed doors, I knew she shed tears of heartbreak. She managed to secure the lion's share of assets and custody of her children in the divorce. However, this newfound independence also meant taking on both the roles of a mother and a father. She tirelessly worked around the clock to ensure our family enjoyed a high standard of living. Following the divorce, my maternal grandparents stepped in as our primary caregivers. The love for my mother was unwavering, yet they grabbed with a sense of shame surrounding her divorce. Despite the generational gap, they wholeheartedly embraced their roles as surrogate parents, showering my sister and me with love. In many Chinese families, it's common for grandparents to dote on their grandchildren, particularly if they are boys. However, in my case, my maternal grandparents showered my sister and me with the utmost care and attention. My mother, too, instilled the values of gender equality through both her words and actions. As a result, my upbringing has cultivated a unique perspective within me. I am a staunch advocate for gender equality, a few points that might not always resonate with many of my male peers. I aspire to see women like my remarkable mother and sister receive fair and unbiased treatment in this world, free from the burden of stereotypes imposed by gender. I long for a world where mother and sister are held in the same regard as father and brother. Above all, I wish to convey to every woman the importance of embracing their authentic selves as individuals, rather than being confined to roles like mother or sister throughout their life. This is the essence of my feminine story, one that has shaped me into the person I am today, someone who may be perceived as unconventional in Chinese society. That's all. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Great, Zineng. I hope you can hold on for the feedback to this. I know you have a doctor's appointment, but if you can hold on to the feedback that will be coming on the stories, that would be great. I'm going to be switching and sharing my screen because next is Farzana, who is joining us from Pakistan, and I'm going to be showing her recorded story. She is talking about a tragic incident that happened, the loss of one of her nieces, as I understand it, and the connection to the Pakistani healthcare system.
A story of tragedy, a story of tragic tell us about the loss and resilience, a story of little girl Zahara. And this was unforgettable incident which changed our whole life. And it was happening when my niece Zahra and nephew Inan visited us in Islamabad. Their excitement was contagious as we prepared for my younger brother's wedding and visit to the designer for the bridal dresses. It was a December 2020 sunny morning. We embarked on the adventure to Lakeview Park. The children were overjoyed, exploring the zoo and playland, and Zahra called me again with these words. I don't know why she calling me like this thing with these words again, and she calling me like with these words. Ani, look it to me. Ani, look it to me. Ani, look it to me. And why you are surprised? Why she is calling like this? Previously they never called like this, and with these from the core of heart. But I feel that she is overjoyed, therefore she is calling like this. Laughter filled the air as we captured the precious moment. This was the moment, the kid gleefully playing among the maple leaves. This was the moment when suddenly a crowd of the bumble poison bees attacked us, turning joy into crisis of pain. We desperately needed medical help at the public hospital. Polyclinic, the doctors seemed indifferent. My sister Lubna repeatedly pleaded for attention, but it fell on deaf ears. The suffering continued for hours. Zahra, in pain, cried for water, but even that was denied by the nurse. Eventually, we found the water, but the delay had severe consequences. Zahra's health got worse. Her liver was damaged, and her white blood cells were affected. I too suffered critical injuries. Hours passed, and our family was now here to be seen. We tolerated the cold-heartedness of the medical staff. Meanwhile, a different crisis unfolded in the background. Zahara's father, Fahad, had the fraudulent intention. He had married an older American woman, Laura, for visa, divorcing my younger sister Asma and denying Zahara as his own. Fahad and his family insisted on moving Zahara to another hospital, claiming better treatment. However, their true intention was mollified. After discharging they left Zahara and Asma at home. Zahara's condition worsened repeatedly. In those faithful hours, Zahra lost her life and Asma was subjected to the torture. Our pleas to see Zara on the last time were then ignored. A beautiful life was lost. A beautiful life was lost due to the healthcare negligence. A selfishness of men and a society that often fails its women. Yet in our grief, we found a glimmer of hope in Mirha, my brother's daughter, who bears a supernatural resemblance to Zara. Asma clings to this newfound blessing and awaits divine justice. I too have found my purpose to advocate for healthcare awareness and change through the advocacy at difference. This incident left us feeling powerless at that time because we are powerless, but now we are strive to empower others and ensure no one suffer a similar fate. Thank you.
Okay. So that was Farzana from Pakistan. And next is, hold on a second, I'm trying to find my bearings here. Next is Eric from Burundi. And we will be finishing with Chia from Cameroon. Eric, I believe you are performing, if I remember, you are performing live. Are you ready to perform live? And if you have any problems with your performance live, we can play the video recording. So don't stress out if that happens. But Eric is going to be talking to us about his passion for teaching English. Yes, we can hear you, and its relation to his family, the tensions it's caused in his family. Go ahead, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to present live. The connection now is okay. Can I go start it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I am the eldest in the family of 5 children. My parents sacrificed themselves to raise my siblings and I with great passions, especially for me. I was the hope of family after I finished the high school. They started saving to pay school fees and then other extra expenses. Only owning one pair of clothes during my studies was one of their sacrifices to seeing their son finish his studies. Iranian parents expelled this good English speaker to provide for the family through my talents. They don't understand the sacrifice I make teaching people for free. I'm a part of the youth who have not yet acquired a paying job and who are trying to sell their talents through volunteering. My parents are not accepting the fact I'm teaching people for free and are suspicious that I'm being paid somehow. Volunteering is not the career they have imagined. They can't understand how can someone can pass a whole year teaching people for free. They thought about the sacrifice and whatever they did to be who I am. They often remind how tough it was to raise me. In their eyes, I'm a traitor who doesn't want to help them. To them, I shouldn't spend my time not being paid. According to them, I no longer deserve the respect since I don't have more to bring home. My daughter calls me a loser, worthless, and disobedient for not having a serious sign. It saddens me. That is my truth. It breaks my heart hearing this from my own parents, but I must keep going. The lives I have saved have a great impact on me than the ways I've thrown them away. It's not an easy transition from a social crisis to economic crisis. Burundi, the rich developed countries of the world, is leaving this tactical to step forward into new era of development, economic development, which comes with a surprise. I'm among the people who are educating the masses and among those creating this new era. Am I helping my generation to think outside the box and to not be afraid to take new opportunities? Some of my fellows are bridging this gap through my sacrifice. I'm having them to conduct small businesses, cultivating their lands, new fashions, embracing new technology, ways of living by using the powerful tools of this new generation. My determination lives on. Rain or shine, I'm educating my fellows as I have been taught how to speak English and have an open mind. This is a conflicting, as our visions are different. But this brought me to think that I need to work hard and create new opportunities through volunteering. I'm saving the people, and they're given strength to work, to step forward and move ahead and roll up my strength. Nothing can compare this. Although I still have a long way to go, I should think of volunteering as a positive experience since I have given opportunities because of it. I'm surrounded people who are there in times of need and who share my values. And I hope one day I'll sit with the kings, thanks to my volunteering. And I hope that I will prove to my parents that I can still achieve greatness in my life. I am the hope of my family and the hope of nation. Thanks for hearing me out.
Fantastic, Eric. This was, I'm glad that not only were you able to present, but you were able to present in front of not just us, an international audience, but actually your audience at home in Burundi. I'm assuming these are some of your students behind you?
Yes, you're right.
Excellent. Good. So that actually helps your storytelling, right? To the extent that you're kind of bringing your crowd, the people that you have influenced, into your storytelling. It's good to see you all. We have in Burundi. I'm glad you guys are participating with us. And we have just one more story, and then we're going to switch to discussion, and we'll all have the opportunity to hear your thoughts on these stories. So let me share my screen. Hold on a second, and let me get to the final story, which is Chia's here. And Chia is, just to explain, is a refugee living in the United Arab Emirates from Cameroon, which is currently undergoing essentially a civil war. Oops, if you can make sure to keep your volume off if you're not actually speaking. I just want to make sure that everybody has their volume turned off or muted, that you're muted. Chia is going to be talking about his experience and essentially the violence that his family experienced in this conflict that led to his fleeing from Cameroon.
The reason why our home was burned down, it all started in 2016 when the political crisis broke out in my country. And the people, the English-speaking Cameroonian, complained of marginalization, and they went out to protest, and the government militants broke down on them so hardly, and they had no choice rather than to fight back. As I'm talking to you right now, there is a lot of fighting going on with the freedom fighters and the government military. So in the course of all this, our home was burned down in the 13th of January, 2020. And I lost my grandmom in the 2021 and my dad in 2023. So one fateful morning, my family woke up, my father, my mother, my stepmother, my step brothers and sisters. They woke up just to hear the news that the military were coming into the city. And you know what the military can do? When they are coming, there is a lot of destruction. So when they hear of this, when they thought of this, they said, no, we can't stay. We have to look for safety. So they went for safety. Before they returned, our home was burned down. And you know, with all their food, crops they prepare for the season, all was burned down. So at this point, they were confused and they had no choice rather than to relocate to a nearby city where my father happened to own a home there. So they relocated there. That was the biggest tax. They faced a lot of difficulties because they have nothing to eat actually. They live by support from good neighbors, goodwill neighbors. And also me, I stand by them at this particular point in time. And we were all standing together. At the time where I was really, really affected because of this issue. Why? Because where I am, I hope, but I couldn't serve anything because I'm trying to meet up with that own target. And in the course of all this, my grandmom passed on in the 2021, and everything went worse when I got up one morning. I was about going for work, and on my way to work, I got a missed call. When I called back, that was a direct message they gave me: your father is dead. So this was shocking. Actually, I dropped the call, and later on I called back. I got the same message. I have to accept the fact. I have to accept my job. So at this point, with all this, I learned something very important. What I learned was that when you come across a refugee, internally displaced, or they need it, attention, we have to concentrate because there's some with money or without money, they need us actually. And in all this, I also try to put some smile in people's organization called Life. So far, we have 25 people. And to building our platform with long-term and short-term goals, hoping that one day we will do more. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to turn on gallery view as we turn back to discussion. And so once again, if you could raise your hands digitally, and if you'd like to comment on any of the previous four, you can also connect back to the first four stories that were told. And we'd love to hear from some of you who have not spoken as yet, as well as those who have spoken. Gustavo, I think you might be an exception. We'd love to hear from you in part as one of our alumni kind of FDs. So Gustavo first.
Thank you, Paul. I was going to write it, but since you gave me the option, I prefer to speak. I would like to talk about Eric's and Farsana's story. I think you both did great, honestly. I think the structure, the body language, how immersed you were in your story really helped putting us there and experimenting what you guys are living. Both stories were so emotional for different reasons, like Eric's story is about courage and power, and Farsana's story, it's about loss and second chances. I think Farsana, I think that you brought your story, like the line that you get to your story, how you tell it, like it's like so many, it's like a roller coaster because you experiment so many different emotions, listening to what happened to Sarah, and then when was Mirha that she comes, and then she comes and you guys have someone to keep Sarah, Sarah's memory alive, but in a way that will help your family heal. I think it was beautiful, a beautiful way to put your story together to end your story. I would add to your story that how common is for in like Pakistan to not receive proper medical care. Like it's a problem that your family has, your community has, the whole country has. Like I would love to hear about that. And for Eric, having people with you, it's so powerful. Like honestly, I think that for everyone, like if you have the opportunity to have someone while you're telling your story, it's always a yes for me. Like I think it's amazing, it's beautiful. One phrase that you said, the sacrifice of a man teaching for free, it's something I'm not going to forget. I think it's a beautiful phrase. And in general, in a space like this where English is the second language for so many of us, I think that language becomes a prop. So if possible, and this is just a recommendation, like if you can say things in your mother language and just translate it for us, like things that someone said or things that you thought at the moment, like say it the way that you would say it normally, and then you translate that sentence and that feeling to us, it will really help us connect with your story to a more personal level. But thank you everyone. I really enjoyed your stories.
Gustavo, some interesting ideas and good feedback. Itai is joining us from Zimbabwe and would like also to comment. I should note that Itai was also one of our Family Diplomat trainees last year, and he also won an award for one of the most improved storytellers. Itai.
All right, I just want to say to the stories that I've just heard, the people are great presenters, but some of the presentations, the way they present, they have to make it real. Yeah, I remember last time I had to struggle to present my story, especially to the audience, which you don't know what they think. So it's good to make it real. So that to the hearers, we will not have any problem to try to connect. But the stories, they are great stories they have. And at the same time, I just want to say thanks to Eric. The story is so fantastic. If he keeps polishing it up, it will be a great story. That's all that I can say.
Itai, just if you can be a little more specific in your the constructive feedback that you're trying to provide in terms of how they can improve. I think earlier you said something like if you could just be more specific to any particular story that you heard.
It's like the way we present our stories. Sometimes we are afraid of how the people are going to judge my story. So if they make it real, I understand that some of the stories, they are real, but the way we present them, we feel like I don't think people are getting it. So if they make it real, passionately, I think that's the best.
So real means being more passionate in the way in which they present their story.
Yeah, the way they present their story. There are stories, they are great stories, but Let them make them real. Let them feel it so that we can grasp it and catch it. And I had to repeat that last time I had to struggle. So how people are going to get it. So it's very simple. Let them be in it, in the story. Yeah.
Yeah, so let them be more passionate. I think on that, I want to make a note about, I think you guys have pointed out that Eric and Farzana had these kind of quite powerful stories. And I think what partly made them, you could hear the passion, in part in the change in Farzana's voice, right? When she, at some points, you could clearly hear that it was upsetting to her in her voice, not in what she was saying, but in the actual quality of her voice. And that's not something that necessarily you have to kind of act on or act to put on. In this case, you would presume it was quite genuine, that it was really painful for her. In Eric's case, I think what's remarkable is in part the pregnant pauses. At certain points, what was strong about your storytelling is in part that you were pausing at certain moments, the eloquence of what you were saying, the fact that you talked about the struggle between your disagreement between you and your parents, but then you talk more broadly about your story in the context of your nation and the opportunities that you're creating for your fellows in your nation. That's really important because it turns this little conflict into between your parents and you into something much more significant, much bigger. And so I loved that as well about your storytelling. And then clearly the passion that you have, Eric, for your own story of volunteerism. Other comments that people have. Mo, I don't know if you were going to offer a comment on some of the stories.
Well, sir, just I don't have any other, I mean, extra comments. Just, I'm telling this one that, that was a wonderful, session actually, that, everyone did well. And I've seen improvement in everybody here, that, we all have improved a lot. And from the first session that we've been starting practicing here, and as today, I saw, that was great. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've learned a lot of things from you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mo, absolutely. And as I noted in the Zoom chat, your storytelling has really improved from last year to this year. So the point is we can all become better storytellers little by little with doing different things to kind of improve the storytelling. Any other comments, last minute feedback that you guys want to provide? Richie, who is joining us, it's now 1:30 in the morning in China, and Richie has patiently kind of been with us. I don't know if you've shared stuff. I haven't been able to read through all the comments, but would you like to share something from your perspective in China?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I want to say something about Leroy. The first story, and it's really impressed me. Because I was studying to be a vlogger when I was 14, and I was trying to do single mom in China something. But single mom in China, we did just like teenager mom. But in China, we cannot widely tell this kind of story to others, both teenager mom and single mom. And Leroy's story reminded me think of a very famous vlogger and YouTuber, and I have watched her story for 4 years. Her daughter called Katia, and this vlogger had her baby when she was 19, and then her boyfriend left her, and her friend left her, and she just nobody can help her, and told her that your life is was destroyed because you don't have a husband to help you, and you don't have a high education background. And at the beginning, she only can just sleep with her daughter at the in garage. But just like Leroy's mother, this vlogger tried her best to earn money, and then she and her daughter are living in a very great house in America. And I think that just Leroy's story just really inspired me. His body language and his spirits, and just really impressed me. And that's all.
Leroy, I don't know if you want to respond. You had asked at the very beginning of this whether or not you could respond. Any of our storytellers, just in a couple of minutes, like to say anything? We heard from Mo, but would love to hear from Leroy as well, and any of our other storytellers. Leroy?
Yeah. First, I want to be grateful to every single person who had, comment and give their view of the various stories that were told today. I want to say I'm always proud to tell the story of my mom and how she had impacted lives, not just my life, not just my siblings and our life, but many people across the world today. So I'm excited, and I'm also glad that telling her story and making others to understand that not only her, but many people, single mothers out there, can do better only if their children or they themselves stop being bullied and stop being made to feel like they are inhuman. So I want to say many thanks to every single person. And the aim of this story is solely to raise awareness so that the world can realize that those people are not responsible for their condition. Despite the fact that there can be conflict in relationship, it doesn't give the world any right to stigmatize them, to discriminate them, to make them to feel that they are the cause of their predicament. So I'm excited once again. Anytime I'm talking about the impact of my mom as it relates to our lives, I get so much emotional. So I just want to say I'm excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Leroy. Any other of our storytellers who want to make a final thoughts?
I'd like to say something.
Yep.
Okay, I want to truly appreciate everyone who provided feedback to my story and to all of our stories. My father is a genius. He's an inspiration to a lot of people here in Nigeria, in our community. He's regarded as a genius everywhere he goes to, his story really inspires a lot of people. Like, we all draw strength from him. Like, no matter what I am going through, I always draw inspiration that I can overcome it, no matter how difficult a challenge is, because I was born by someone who overcame like astronomers' odds to build a great life for himself and his family. So I really want to say thank you to everyone, and I truly appreciate.
Awesome, Chirunim. And yeah, I having a blind father who's achieved so much, I think makes you humble when you're considering your own circumstances, considering how much he achieved. Anybody else? Eric, and let me see here is who has presented. Chia, Farzana. Do you guys have any thoughts before we go? Eric?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like just to thank you for this occasion. This is a great moment just to share what I do. Sometimes, okay, I'm so glad because I'm with my brothers and sisters. And what I'm saying, and this is a real, and it's some they know, some I like to tell them like stories. So if you what I believe in my story, so is I was created for a reason, and I have just to be variable asset, and I think I'm variable vessel in the world. Yes, it doesn't matter what my daddy or parents or people can tell me or call me, but the word is important. It is what I call Eric, what I call myself. Do I call a hope of nation? If I call a hope of nation, I'll be also the hope of nations. Why not? And thank you for the hearing. And I also want to thank you for the feedbacks on my story. Thank you. And I'm so glad because my work is known now by the whole world.
Yeah. And Eric, one note, a quick note that I will be following up with you because I think the U.S. government, particularly the State Department, might be interested in hearing. The State Department, meaning the Department of International Relations for the U.S. government, has programs to promote English and English learning. And I think the embassy in your country may be interested in learning about you and working with you. I can't make any promises. All I'm going to do is kind of connect you with some folks and see if they're able to help you because you're doing important work. The volunteerism you're doing is vital, right? Because English is such an important language. And I want to also correlated to that, I want to appreciate all of you for most of you, English is not your first language, and you're telling stories in English. So I really appreciate the kind of you've had the obstacle of learning to storytell, but also the obstacle of learning to storytell in English. So it's really appreciated the kinds of courage that is taken for you to do this. I think in the interest of time, because I want to respect everybody's time, we should stop now. But I really want to thank everybody for your participation. Gustavo, Itai, thank you for joining us as some of our FDs in part of our growing FD or family diplomat community. Eric, thank you for bringing your brethren, your fellows from Burundi. It was great to meet you all. I'm glad that you guys were here for this. I'm also very thankful to our interns, some of whom are here, and I think in fact all the ones I think who participated in transcribing your videos to make sure that we could understand you clearly. They did the work for this. And lastly, of course, I want to thank our family diplomats for your courage and your perseverance in developing your stories. And Richie, thank you for joining us from China so late. I hope you get a good night's sleep. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.